Right, a massive welcome back to Lawrence Wright with Chemtrails and Flat Earth Revisited. Controversial and entertaining. Loz pokes our beliefs and encroaches on our comfort zones with two subjects. First, the modern phenomenon known as chemtrails, an observable phenomenon carried out in most countries' airspace and denied by aviation authorities and governments, probably because they can, using obscure emergency powers, maybe. Certain leaks as to their origins and purpose have come to light recently, along with their new name, geoengineering. Did we consent to this? Probably. Second, the flat earth. Prepare to have your beliefs challenged by Loz, who brings certain facts not widely known to upset the apple cart in a way only Loz does. Please welcome Lawrence Wright.
Right, okay, welcome to New Horizons. I was here 4 years ago and I did a chat about chemtrails then, and since then I've decided to take a second look at it, and all is not what it appears. And I think the truth community, if you want to call it that, have been misled. So we're going to look at what are they spraying, why are they spraying, and who is spraying. We'll start off with the what. Give me some chemicals or products that you think are being rained down upon us. Barium. Aluminium. Any more? Aluminium, oxide, barium.
Unknown microscopic particles.
Strontium. Okay.
Nanoparticles.
Okay. These are the three that they focus on most. Aluminium, barium, and strontium. Now, when I was here last time, I showed you a clip from the documentary What in the World Are They Spraying, which is the one that's been seen by most people, because they raised money to have a budget so they could go to Hawaii and do some filming over there. I'm going to show you a few clips on that now, and then I'm going to point out the errors that they've put in it. These are deliberate errors to mislead you. So if you just bear with me a second.
The sky is a very dirty look to it. There's not the white cloud blue sky that we had only a few years ago, but it looks like there's some sort of massive industrial activity or forest fires burning over there, and we see that typically every night. You see, even down to ground level, the clarity drops off significantly, and we don't see that except for the days when we have these long, lingering trails that spread and cover the whole sky, and on certain days you can see these trails actually dropping vertically like a veil. We assume the particulates are descending, and we have the test to prove that we are being inundated with levels of aluminum and particulates that are literally tens of thousands of times what would already be considered high. So we're not talking about exposure to a slight percentage higher of these toxic materials. We're talking about quantities, for example, off the side of Mount Shasta. If you can pan back, that's a landmark in Northern California, considered to be a pristine water source. Aluminum or snow sample off the side of Mount Shasta tested 61,000 parts per billion.
This is just ordinary snow water, and people are drinking this stuff when they're hiking on the mountain. And remember, government action is required at 1,000. This is 61 times over the government limit, and our hikers are drinking this poisonous water on Mount Shasta Mountain itself. God. Barium, 83. Strontium, 383.
So this summer, the people climbing are drinking poison.
Basically. I certainly wouldn't want to drink 61,000 micrograms per liter of water.
So the big one there was the aluminium at 61,000 parts per billion. The problem with that was that the sample they took was not from water. Let me show you what it actually was.
The water. And we tested that crust, and it was aluminum and barium that after a year and a half's accumulation had 375,000 parts per billion of aluminum in it. It's literally toxic. We can say conclusively that what we see in the sky matches expressly what's outlined in numerous patents and the materials on the ground match those patterns. This material was not there 5 years ago. It is a recent phenomena in the quantities it's
So I've
in.
just froze the screen there. I'm not sure whether you can read that or not. I might be able to get a clearer one. But if you look at the top where it says matrix, it says sludge. So they haven't tested the water, they've tested the mud at the bottom of the pond. Okay? Now mud contains lots of aluminum, so the reading is misleading. This is aluminium oxide. Now you've been led to believe that this is very dangerous to your health. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this in. You can observe the bottle over the evening and see what happens to this. I'm going to put it over here. Okay, and I've got some in a little bottle here. Would anybody like to have a taste? Anybody? Anybody want to put their hand up and try some aluminium oxide? No? It's dangerous, isn't it? You've been told it's dangerous and it'll get into your brain. Yeah, that's what they're telling you. It's dangerous. Lovely. So let's go look at these figures again. Let's bring them up on the screen. 375,000. Can you read that there now? Can you see the bit that says sludge? That's what they were testing. They weren't testing water. 375,000. So to make that, to bring that down to parts per million, you knock the 3 noughts off. So the barium, 3,090, becomes 3 parts per billion, sorry, per million, in sludge. So the question is, what would it be in water? Yeah. Obviously, it's going to be a lot less, isn't it? Because the mud is highly concentrated. But the thing, what you don't know is that aluminium oxide isn't going to show up in water at all. Does anybody know why? It's not soluble, correct. So when they do the water tests, you're only going to find very small amounts of aluminium anyway. Now in the UK there's various groups, chemtrail groups, who've been doing water testing, but they don't seem to have put 2 and 2 together to realise that the results they're getting are normal. There are elevated levels of aluminum, and I've got some here that you can have a look. So this here is the rainwater test map, and it's Chemtrails Project UK. Okay, I can't get all of it on there, but they took samples and they've all come back and they've got the results of the aluminum, strontium, barium and other things. And let's take a look at some of the results. So, first one, the rain test in Rossshire, UK. Aluminium, you can read that, 20 parts per billion. So you divide that by 1,000, gives you the parts per million. So what's that going to work out to move the decimal point back, 1, 2, 3 parts, it's 0.02 parts per million. That is a low test. Yeah, and I can show you lots more. Most of them are showing 20 or less, negligible. Yeah, so we don't have elevated levels of aluminium in our water, in the rainfall. It's normal. And the other ones are very low as well. So if you look at the barium, under 10 parts per billion, and strontium under 1/10 of a part. That's it, when it says milligrams, that's millionths of a gram. So that's less than 1/10 of a part per million. These are low. Let's have a look at what the safe levels are, what's actually permitted in our water. 7 Trent water. Okay, the UK standard for aluminium is 200 parts per billion. Yeah, so these are well below the maximum permitted. So we don't have elevated levels of aluminium, strontium or barium. So all this hoo-ha about aluminium oxide being a big problem, it doesn't dissolve in water. And when they say it's going to damage the plants, it's not, because it's not going to get taken up in the roots because it don't dissolve in water. So they've got a big problem with that, but they're not acknowledging. In the same video, this guy did a pH test of the soil, and he lied. I'll have to show you a little video. The guy actually lied about the pH, and you can actually see on this video, because somebody's actually captured it, and it shows you what the pH colour is, and it's normal, but on screen they're lying.
So far, not
area
a single claim has
that
been
have
factual. Let's
escalated
continue.
10 to 12 times, and we can prove that conclusively. 10 to 12 times, and we can prove that conclusively. Well, this is not
Conclusively?
speculation.
Really?
We can prove conclusively that these metals have been in the rain. We have
In about 2005 or so, the pH here was 5.5, 5.6.
This is the old soil survey of the county. You can look at the page right here. This is my soil right here. It's a Dietz 125, 126 here at my house. And here, the soil reaction pH should be between 4.5 and 6.0. And over there in the pure mud, it's even a little darker. 6.8 right there. 6.8 right there. 6.8 right there.
6.8? As usual, I think we need to take a little closer look at the facts. As you can see, we have a little problem here. There's 6.8, and nowhere along this strip is it any darker than 5.8 except for the dirt. Just to prove the point even further, I brought the still shot from the video into Photoshop and used the color picker to confirm that the color on the strip, the test result, is the same as 5.8, as you can see here. And yet another example of deception where they tell you that they've tested the water when they've actually tested dirt or sludge, which is just dirt with water in it. And after checking historical data, it turns out that for sludge, these numbers are actually below normal.
So, obviously that guy's had a good look through that video, and I've had a good look through it, and there's lots of other stuff in there, and I'll show you some more in a minute, but the whole thing is a psyop. It's fear porn. It's to scare people. And there's lots of other people out there doing it. Most of the people that are in there, I think there's some actors in there, to be honest. And there was a section a bit further up with where they used children to prey on your emotions, and they got this little girl, and they took a hair sample, and they showed you the results of the hair test as to the levels of aluminium in it. So let's just take a look at that.
How about the chemtrails? Well, that we won't be able to live here and grow our own food, and that our health is going to be compromised.
You think it already has been?
Yes. And the thing is that they're doing it every day here, every day. So it's hammering, micro doses every day. And then, of course, it's getting in the environment, and of course, it's weakening the plants. And it takes a couple years for this to actually weaken the plant. So we are asking for GMO taro. We're asking for GMO papaya because we can't grow our natural seeds. We can't be sustainable. We can't truly, be here as God created us to be.
So my friend convinced me to do a hair analysis on my daughter. So we went ahead and cut close to her scalp and got some really recently grown hair and sent it in. I was just sure that my daughter's hair was going to be so clean with the lifestyle that we live. And lo and behold, it came back and her levels were really high in aluminum. This is the chart here. This is the reference range, and this is where my daughter is, 23.1. Aluminum. The skies are covered with a white mist, and I look up at night anymore and I don't see the deep, dense stars that I used to, and I can't help but think this obviously has something to do with my daughter's health. I don't know where else these heavy metals are coming from.
Yeah, I mean, look how old she is.
Yeah.
She's been isolated here.
Here, and she's...
Here. Anybody looking at the situation would be like, this is paradise. This child should be like superhuman.
Organic farm.
And here you are getting all this heavy metal stuff.
She has highest level aluminum on the chart.
Never had a vaccine either.
So just in a freeze frame on that one. And if you look at the screen, the reference range for aluminium is 17.3 parts per billion. And it's showing a reading of 23, so it's about a quarter, a third higher. But those reference ranges are for adults. Children excrete more because their bodies are young and healthier. They actually get rid of more impurities through the hair than adults. So that's pretty much a pretty normal reading for a child. But if you take a look at some of the other results on there, you've got the, so if you look at those that are in the red, if you look at the lead's like 4 or 5 times higher than average. You didn't even mention the lead. And then you look at the other ones, the strontium and the barium, it's 0.026, the reference range is 1.7. So the barium is like, a fifth or so of the reference range. So those figures are nothing to worry about. But they're making out that she's been poisoned by aluminium. It's just a normal reading. It does, yeah. If you bleach your hair and use chemicals on your hair, that could have an impact upon it. So, and they brought this scientist guy in who's a specialist in oxides of metals and things like that. And the guy's had a big row with him since because they're putting misleading statements about what he's saying. This guy's actually saying that aluminium oxide actually good for you. Does anybody know another form of aluminium oxide? Some of you probably even use it. Let me show you. See, aluminium oxide is in bentonite. Now, millions of people now use bentonite for their health to actually purify their bodies. Because what bentonite is, aluminium oxide, it says here at the bottom. The term aluminium oxide is actually referring to alumina oxide. It's perfectly safe. It's inert, doesn't react with water. And if you ingest bentonite, it will bind with impurities like heavy metals in your body and it'll come out in your excrement. It's what's known as not absorbent, it's adsorbent. So what it does, it will bind with things, but there'll be no chemical reaction. So if they were pumping aluminium oxide through the backs of aeroplanes, then what it will do, it will clean up the air rather than poison the air, because any heavy metals that it comes into contact with, it will bind with them and clean the air. So that's the opposite of what you've been told. But there's no evidence that there's any aluminium oxide anyway. There's no evidence of barium, there's no evidence of strontium. There's about 50 samples on that UK Chemtrails site where they've analysed the water and they've all got normal or lower than normal levels. There's no elevated levels of these products, these metals and substances. They're all normal. So you've been misled. So when I say, what are they spraying? They're obviously not spraying these. So the question is, are they spraying anything? Do you think they're spraying anything? What else do you think they might be spraying? How do you know they're spraying anything unless you've got some hard facts? Yeah, the last time I did a talk here, I broached onto the subject of planes that look like ghosts. They were like holograms in the sky. And I've seen it myself where you've got a line going across the sky. There's nothing in front of it. It's just a line. It's like somebody's drawn a line across the sky. You know, crisscross, crisscross over the whole sky. And sometimes you get that many. There's more lines than the planes exist. And I've been speaking to people on Facebook. Show me some evidence that this is coming out of the backs of aeroplanes. Show me a picture of an aeroplane with the proper logo of the plane, like Ryanair or EasyJet, where you can see something coming out of the back. And to date, nobody has. There hasn't been a single genuine whistleblower from military or commercial airlines to validate any of this. So we don't even know whether this stuff is real. We don't even know whether it's, you know, of man or of something else. But there's severe doubt that if all the chemtrails groups are focusing on these three things, and there's no evidence of it, there's no evidence of planes doing it. All you're seeing is something in the sky that looks like a plane, or shaped like a plane, and usually they're so high up, all you do is see a silver tube going across the sky, can't be identified. Now some people will say, but I got it on flight radar. Well, maybe you did, but that doesn't mean it's true. So I'm not worried about what I see up in the sky now. You know, they say that everybody's going to get sick with respiratory illnesses, and they say that, you know, it's damaging the crops. Well, that's not true. This guy was saying, that professor guy there with the funny hat on, he was saying it was damaging the tomato crops. So I went and looked at the tomato yields. They're getting record yields of tomatoes. It's not damaging the crops. That guy, the hippie guy, you know, on the organic farm, he was saying they're having to get, you know, consider getting genetically modified papaya. So I checked, and Hawaii has been producing genetically modified papaya for over 20 years. It's not something new. They've already been doing it. So they're lying. They're lying to you. Most of the people in that film are lying to you. The guy whose name they used to make that film, Edward G. Griffin, he's a genuine guy. He's been telling, you know, things about the money scam since the 1960s. And they used his name to give credibility to it. But all the other guys, you know, there's some agenda behind it. They want to scare you. And, you know, there's something wholly different going on. We are seeing things in the sky, but we don't know what they are. And in my book, it's not aircraft. You know, you look at the fleet of the RAF, you look how many planes they've got. They certainly haven't got many planes that are suitable for distributing. Anyway, so in terms of what are they spraying, we don't know. We don't know whether they're spraying anything, because they could be just painting lines on a holographic sky, for all we know. We don't know what technology they've got. They could be just lines. All the rainwater tests for those things that they mention, and those are the three that everybody mentions, all the rainwater tests show the tests are normal or below normal levels. So that stuff is not coming down here. It's not affecting. The water companies use the rainwater to send the tap water. They might try and clean it up a bit, but the base water for all the water that you drink comes from the rain, doesn't it? Where else do they get it from? Yeah. So I mean, well, it's in terms of what are they spraying? If they're spraying anything, you know, we've established that. I think we've clearly established that these things are not being sprayed. They're not coming down, certainly. If they are spraying them, they're staying up there. Okay, so we've had, what are they spraying? Alright, it's not very good at wiping stuff out. So let's move on to why. If they are spraying anything, why are they spraying? From the floor. Come on, give me some thoughts. Why do you think they're spraying, if they are spraying?
Reflecting sunlight to keep the planet a little bit cooler, maybe.
Reflecting sunlight, okay.
Weather modification.
Weather modification. Why would you think they'd want to modify the weather?
Pisses off.
Pisses off. to increase temperature.
Weather is a weapon enhancement.
Okay. I don't think it's any of those. I think it's one of maybe 2 or 3 things. And one of those things is to sidetrack the vast numbers of people who are waking up now to all the government deception. And there are millions of people. You know, Facebook is absolutely chocker. On the, you know, on the news pages, people are posting stuff every day, millions and millions of photographs. People are getting really sick of it, and some people are getting quite ill about it. So if they had the potential to do it, the power to do it, they could create this threat of something that's not even real. If they've got the technology to paint holograms on the sky, yeah, they've got hologram technology. If they've got the potential to do that, they can create all this fear in people, and they thrive on fear, and at the same time they will sidetrack all these people waking up from other issues to focus on chemtrails when it's nothing. But I have another theory, potential theory, because it seems that it's taken, you know, they've been doing it for 20 years or maybe longer. It seems a very long psyop if they're doing it that way. So I'm going to show you a short video clip. The guy who's presenting this clip, for me, is a fraud anyway, but there is some truth in there. So I'm going to present you with another little video clip now.